is it important that schools or districts or higher education facilities use quality principles?
Well, quality principles are what creates a pull on people. And most of what we do in society is we push people, and when you push them, they resist. So, if you do this, we'll give you money, and if you don't, we'll punish you. That's a push, the carrot and the stick. Whereas quality creates a pull. Kids and adults want to be a part of it. So, and there's many ways that it creates that pull, but that's what happens. So you, in my Permission to Forget book, one of the chapters, we asked teachers, what % of your kids love school? Well, kindergarten, it's 95 to 99%. But every grade level after that, it goes down. Fewer and fewer kids love school. Well, that's the result of our push. You keep pushing them, and more say, I don't want to be here. But with the quality principles, we get even in high school, 90% of the kids say they like this. Okay, and so if the kids don't want to be there, and we get a low point of 39 to 40% of the kids love school in 9th grade. It just goes down and down and down and down. So it's really hard to get the quality you want if they don't want to be there. So much of what quality does is build on their intrinsic motivation they were born with, not to motivate them, but to maintain what they came with, what they were born with. And it's a pull. That's what it is.
What does waste in education look like?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's understand when you use the term waste, it sounds harsh. Okay. But only creation is perfect. Everything, that's the only place that we find no waste. So everything that humans create, there's waste. So we don't want to be defensive about it. There's always waste. And in education, we waste money, we waste time, and we waste student potential. So what I just spoke about the loss of enthusiasm, is a waste of student potential. Okay? Teachers don't have control over the waste of money. So they don't really do much for that waste. A little bit, but not much. But what is the biggest issue for teachers is time. And from surveys from over 3,000 teachers, they say that 1/3 of their time is spent teaching kids content they should already know. So that's 60 days of every school year is really a waste. And it's not the teacher's fault. When you say to teachers in an interview, why do you want to be a teacher? They never say, well, I want to help kids cram and get good grades and then forget. That's not what teachers say. And yet when they're hired, that's the system. The system is built on learn this information for the test, and then you don't need it anymore. And it starts in grade 1 with spelling. Kids know in about a month of 1st grade, I don't need those words anymore. And then it turns into chapter tests and finals and other kinds of things. I had an email come to me of a valedictorian speech. And the girl said, I'm up here as a valedictorian, and you think I'm the smartest kid in the high school, but you're wrong. What I am is the very best one at playing the game. I know how to cram, I know how to answer it on the exam, and then I dump it out of my brain so that I have room for the next test to cram for that. Said, I'm the very best at playing the game, I'm not the smartest one here. And so what an aspect of quality that I teach is a way to eliminate that permission to forget. It's impossible. You set it up so that they can't. And we can, that's what, when quality looks at the system, you say, well, we inherited a system that gave kids permission to forget. What kind of system could we set up so that it would be impossible to cram? You just really have to learn the content, and we can do that.
What are some tools or techniques that educators can use to reduce waste?
Okay, so let's look at the wasting of time and student potential together. If you say to a kid who's on an athletic team, how's it going? They'll give you 2 answers. They'll tell you how they're doing, they'll tell you how the team's doing. If you say to a kid in school, how's it going? They only give you 1 answer, how they're doing. because schools don't have teams traditionally. I'd say 99.9% of the schools in the United States, there's no team. Okay? So one of the ways that we reduce that loss of student enthusiasm and that waste of time is we add up the total for the whole class weekly. So let's say that it's in mathematics, and the teacher in grade 7 has 50 concepts for the kids to learn for the year. What they're quizzed on, and their weekly quiz, which is common, is not that chapter, but it's 7 questions at random from the whole year, and then it's 2 6th grade questions, and it's 1 5th grade question. So they don't have permission to forget the prior grades. And the kids track how they're doing. I mean, that would be pretty common. But the unusual part, and the part that answers your question, is we had the total correct for the whole class. And they love it. It's like a scoreboard. They can see that they're doing better. And then when they do better than they've ever done before, it's an all-time best. And we keep trying to get all-time best, all-time best, all-time best. Then there's an annual goal. But the annual goal doesn't come from a number that floats out of the air. The annual number is beating the best, have the best week this teacher's ever had. So they know the best week from the prior years. And the teacher says, okay, this is what it is. If you can beat the prior years, that's what that is. So let's say that in a class of 25 kids with 10 questions a week, perfect would be 250. Well, we've not had perfects. Okay. So let's say the best the teacher's ever had is 198 questions, right? Well, then the kids know their goal is 199 for that year. They want to beat the prior years, and that creates a lot of they can't forget. So we're working on that, and we're working on student engagement, both at the same time. In Phoenix, a grade 2 teacher on the math quiz, because he would pull them at random. They don't know what, these questions are at random. They're up from the whole year. And it was how to read an analog clock. And only 2 kids in the room knew how to do that. It came up the first or second week of school. So those 2 kids would gather kids over by the plastic clock the teacher had, you could move the hands on, and they were showing all the other kids how to read the clock. Because they said, this might come up again. It will come up again. We just don't know when. You got to be ready. So yes, they do help each other to get the team up. And the kids that are, when you rank kids, which is common in schools, then the ones that are lowest get picked on. It's a part of the bullying problem. And we say to kids, don't bully. Well, if the teacher ranks the kids, they're going to bully, okay? But when you add up the total for the class, when the slowest kid in the room goes from 2 right to 3 right, they get high fives because they helped out the team. And also, it's really nice when, let's say the class has 100 questions right as a whole class, and they go to 120. Yay, 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 we're thrilled. That was great. But it's really better when the class goes from 100 right to 101 right. Because then you say to the kid that's struggling in private, and say, you realize your 1 question right is what did it for the class. If it hadn't been for you, the team wouldn't have had their all-time best. You realize that your 1 did it. You put us over the top. Congratulations, thank you. And then we also, when a kid has their personal all-time best, or the class has an all-time best, we write that information on a shape. My favorite is a school that Eric Carle's Very Hungry Caterpillar. I don't know if you know that book or not, but it's a caterpillar with eating all kinds of stuff. Okay, so they put a caterpillar drawing on the hallway, and then they had these colored circles, all different colors of construction paper. And every time a kid had an all-time best, or the class, they wrote it on a circle, and they went up and down and around like a caterpillar would, all around the hall, all around every time. And so the kids feel wonderful. I started off first grade reading 10 words a minute, and then I got to 12. I have an all-time best, and I put up there. And then the next week when I was checked, I got to 14 words in a minute. So another all-time best, and we put it up there. And so we celebrate when kids improve. It's not a number out of the air. Now, let me contrast that with society. I worked with a New Mexico Navajo school, and in the high school, 10% of the kids were meeting state standards. and 3 years later they got up to 40-some%. You'd think they'd get a lot of credit. They didn't get credit because the Department of Ed in Santa Fe and the Department of Ed in Washington, D.C. give these quotas, and there's No Child Left Behind. And if you don't meet your quota, then you're a failure. It doesn't matter if you improve. You see the difference between, and so one reason so many kids are discouraged is there's this, you got to meet these numbers. And if you don't, then they just give up. But when they can get credit for improvement, adults and kids keep going because it's very encouraging, and we don't waste so much potential or time.
What do you think motivates students?
Success. They're the same as adults. When we see evidence of doing better, we're motivated. So then let's just understand, it's not that it motivates them, it keeps the motivation they were born with. So we have to think in psychology, kids were born with all the motivation they need for life. And they come to kindergarten, almost every kindergartner still has all that motivation. So our job in schools is not to motivate them. Our job is to maintain the motivation they were born with. Or, if they've lost their motivation, to say, I'm not going to motivate you, but I'm going to listen to what's going on so I can restore you to where you were born. And that's a different look at motivation than just trying to pump them up. No, I want to restore the love of science you were born with. What can we do? And if I do something that diminishes that love of science that you were born with, then I have ways of listening to the kids on a regular basis, so I don't do that anymore.
What sort of experience or training do teachers need to be effective 21st century educators?
First is, what are the cultural things in education that are decades old that I've inherited that are in the way? And that's the waste. We need to remove that first. Okay? So that's what the Permission to Forget book is. It lists the permission to forget, the kids cram, forget. We use data that harms people instead of helping people. Instead of moving forward, we have this pendulum that we do this, and then we go back to that, and then we go back to that. Every 20 years we change our mind on how to teach reading. So we have to stop the waste first so that we have time to look at the initiatives. But if we just keep piling things on and keeping the same wasteful things, it won't improve.
All right, one more question. What has been your favorite part about NQEC so far?
The favorite part is that it's a collection of people who understand continuous improvement. You don't have to sit down and explain to your people that you're at the meeting with what continuous improvement is. They get it. So it's a group of people who understand that. So then you're able to go into, well, how do you improve? And how do you improve? As opposed to another conference, well, it's like Alan said this morning, we're on this treadmill of buying new programs. And the people who understand continuous improvement know it's not the next new program we need. It's a culture of improvement. And the people here understand that, so then you pick up little things on how to do that. And what do we need to stop doing to have continuous improvement, and what can we do to improve that?